Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Gananaham Tva Ganapati Gum Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamasravastamam Cheshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anas Srinvan Utibhisti Rasadanam Prano Devi Saraswati Vaje Bhirvajinivati Dhrinama Vitrayavatu Ganeshaya Namaha Saraswatyai Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Sumukascha Ekadantascha Kapilo Gajakarnakaha Lambodharascha Vikato Vignarajo Vinayakaha Dhumaketur Ganadhyakshaha Palachandro Gajananaha Vakratundaha Sturpakarno Hirambaha Skandapurvajaha Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Sasivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Yasya Virada Vaktradhyaha Parishadhyaha Parasatam Vignam Nignanti Satatam Vishvaksenam Tamasraye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheswaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Anjananandanam Veeram Janaki Sokhanashanam Kapi Samakshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Goshpati Katavarasim Masaki Katarakshasam Ramayana Mahamala Ratnam Vande Anilatmajam Sri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Ramanama Varanane Sri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Ramanama Varanane Sri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Ramanama Varanane Sri Ramanama Varanana Om Namayiti Yatra Yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Kritamastakанjalim Bashpavari Paripurna Lochanam Marutim Namada Rakshasantakam. So Viswamitra, the sage, was journeying towards the city of Mithila with Rama and Lakshmana and along with a few of his disciples. And on the way, he was narrating to them in great amount of detail, attractive detail, the stories and the glories of every place they visited, and historically the kingdoms that existed there and what happened to them, how they came about. And it was such a beautiful, enchanting journey that they were having. That one evening, they were seated, Viswamitra was seated on the banks of river Ganga on the sands. And they finished the Sandhya Vandanam, the evening ablutions, the rites and all that. And then in the meantime, while they were walking, both Rama and Lakshmana, they asked the sage, Sir, Swami, you must tell us more details. And and then he said, wait, and I'll tell you at the right time. So that evening, Rama reminded him, Sir, we will be very, very happy to know the origin of this holy river. How did it come about? And Viswamitra said, Ramachandra, your ancestors are responsible for Ganga coming down to earth. And because of all the good deeds that they did, the people of the earth now are sanctifying themselves, or they taking a bath in this holiest river, and thereby purifying their whatever deeds that they did and all that. So this is the absolute divine stream. It's got divine purity in it. And it's and this Ganga has got the power to grant moksham itself. And she was residing and in the hair of Shiva, in the locks, the matted locks that Shiva had. And for that reason, she is most auspicious, and she grants everything that is beneficial. When Viswamitra was extolling the holiness and the greatness of river, of the river Ganga like this, naturally Ramachandra had a question. He said, Swami, how did my ancestors manage to bring down to earth a river that has such an amazing power and purity? If you can describe us the story, we will be very, very happy. Viswamitra heard this request when Rama requested him with such humility. When somebody requests something from you with humility, you will not have the heart. Naturally, you will not be able to do it. You will not have the heart to say no. Not only that, he also proceeded to describe the story of the river Ganga with tremendous happiness, because there is such an attentive and humble student. He said, Rama, listen, in those days, in ancient times, there was a ruler in Ayodhya called Sagara. He was a dharmic person. He was extremely heroic deeds. He was a great king. And because of his greatness, of the qualities that he had, not only his dharmic nature and the valor and the power and the compassion and the love and the exemplary ruler that he was, the king of Vidarbha gave his daughter Kesini in marriage to Sagara. Now, Kesini was also appropriately suited soulmate for him. She was also very dharmically oriented. Those couples those days, not all the couples were dharmic, but people who were, they were like examples to the rest of us. And she never moved away from the path of truth. Satyam Vada is something that she was very rigorously and disciplinedly she was following. But after many years of marriage, they were not blessed with a child. So Sagara, with the approval and consent of Kesini, married another lady by the name Sumati. And Sumati was the daughter of Arishtanemi. And she also, there was no child born to her also. So at that time, what to do? So Sagara, he took both his wives and went to the river, and there there was adjacent to on the banks of that river, Bhrigu had an ashram. So next to that, he stayed and he undertook very severe penances. Severe does not mean body damages and all that. It is a mental discipline, like a fire it should be, very strict discipline with unwavering mind and all that. And some time went like this in his tapas. One day at the break of dawn, in Prata Kalam, as they say, Sandhya, in the Prata Sandhya, my early morning time, just as the sun was about to rise, and Bhrigu, who was also a greatest, staunchest upholder of Satyam, and the people who are spiritually advanced, they always are in line with Satyam. And Bhrigu came before him and he said, King, stop this tapas that you are doing right now. You will be very, very famous. Your fame will be unparalleled. And before long, you will be endowed with a son. And as soon as the Bhrigu Maharishi himself voluntarily of his own accord came and blessed him like that, how you would feel when a rishi comes and blesses you like that. So the king was extremely happy. So he went back to the kingdom with his two wives, and before they left, he fell at the feet of Bhrigu and took his namaskaram. And Kesini, the elder wife, also bowed down and worshipped, offered her prayers to the Maharishi. And Bhrigu asked her, Amma, do you desire a single son, or do you desire a single son who will live long, so that the continuity of your lineage is not broken? Or do you want a large number of sons who will be endowed with tremendous, physically very strong? And then she replied, Swami, one son is enough for me, who will continue the lineage of our Ikshvaku Vamsam. And Bhrigu accepted the request and blessed her there. And then the second queen, Sumati, prostrated before him. And he asked her the same question. And she said, Swami, I would like to have strong, brave children in plenty. And then Sage granted her that wish also. So with the blessings of the sage, the king and the two queens, Kesini and Sumati, returned to Ayodhya. And within a few months, the queens conceived. And after 9 months had passed, Kesini gave birth to delivered a son. And Sumati gave birth to many sons. Now the children were playing very happily, romping around and playing around and all that. And then they went around, out of the palace into the city, looking for companions of their age and all that in order to play games. Now the son of Kesini, his name was Aswamanja. And he took the other children to the banks of Sarayu River. And there he delighted. He became very happy. He played an extremely evil game. He threw each of those children into the river and laughed in absolute happiness when they drowned. So he earned a very infamous reputation as the worst criminal in the kingdom. Now, the children reached their teens, and Sagara selected suitable brides for them and had their marriage celebrated. Aswamanja continued his wickedness, and the citizens of Ayodhya were all terribly pained. It was very violent. Its viciousness was very evil. And then one day they approached Sagara and complained to him. Said, Swami, Maharaja, this your eldest son, Aswamanja, we cannot bear his cruelty anymore. Then the king immediately ordered Aswamanja to be banished from the city, must go to the forest and never return again. But by then, Aswamanja had a son by the name Amsumanta. Now, this Amsumanta was a man of renowned dharmic conduct and love and valor. This is beautiful. If you look at the history of humanity, how Bhagavan has created, you have Prahlada, great devotee. Prahlada's father was a Rakshasa. Prahlada's son was Virochana, was also a Rakshasa. That's Bhagavan's grace. That's how it happened. And so his Aswamanja's son Amsumanta was a great for the person, a noble person he was. And once Sagara decided that he wanted to perform Aswamedha Yagam. Now, it's fixed an auspicious, Mangala, Subha, Muhurtam and all that for my auspicious time. And now the rule of the Aswamedha Yagam was that you have to, at this time when Viswamitra talked about it, Rama now intervened, interrupted. He said, Swami, did the king Sagara perform the Aswamedha Yaga in Ayodhya itself, or did he choose some holy river banks, the banks of some holy river for this yajna? Viswamitra smiled and replied. He said, Rama, I'm realizing how earnest you are about sacrifices. See, Bhagavan is nothing but yajna swarupam and yajna purusha. He wants only sacrifice. To sacrifice only we can attain Bhagavan. It's said in Vedam also, na karbana, na prajaya, na dhanena, tyagaineka ekena amrutatvam anasuhu. That only through tyagam, only through yajnam, only through sacrifice can Bhagavan be obtained. So that Rama was, when he asked this question, Viswamitra said, oh Rama, you are so earnest about sacrifices, and your attitude towards sages is exemplary. This is how it should be. And now I will describe to you in detail. Listen. Now, there is a holy range of mountains called the Himalayan mountains in the north. Now, from a distance, the southern side of it, far from it, is another mountain range facing the Himalayan mountains. This is called the Vindhya mountains, the Vindhya range. The region between the Himalayan mountains and the Vindhya mountains is sacred for all yajnas and yagas. And the Aswamedha Yaga was done in this region. And the experts, Vedic priests and all came. They all gathered there and recited all the mantras. Thousands and thousands of people were watching all this, and everybody was happy. At this time, the procedure was, after the yajnam was done, then the royal horse would be brought in, fully decorated, caparisoned with everything more beautifully decorated. It will come there, and then that horse will be worshipped after the yajna was done. Then the horse would be taken around the whole kingdom. And anybody who opposes or who grabs the horse and takes it, that means it's a challenge that person is throwing on the king who has sent out the horse. When nobody claims the horse is returned back to the yajna salai. Then the yajna, the final rites will be done and it will be concluded. That's the way Ashwamedha Yagam was done. Now, because the horse is going to go, it has to go without any opposition. So to defeat anybody who challenges and who grabs the horse, there was an army of people who used to follow that. Okay? And then if the army gets defeated and the horse is taken, then the king gets defeated. That's the idea. Now, Amsumanta requested and prayed to the king, to Sagara, his grandfather, to send him with the horse, so he can challenge anybody who challenges the horse. And then so he went around, and nobody opposed the movement of the horse. So he brought back, and so the exact moment when the final rite was to be done, the final thing was to be done, and just before Purnahuti, then they went to bring the horse back into the yajna salai. At that time, the horse was gone missing. They could not find it. Even though it has returned without any opposition from anybody in the kingdom, at the moment when they wanted to bring the horse in, they went out and the horse was not there. Now, the Shastras, the rules also say that the horse is missing or lost. It is not available to conclude the yajnam at the auspicious moment prescribed at the Muhurta Kalam. That means it bodes ill for the organizers of the yajna. So naturally, King Sagara was very upset. So then he sent, through his second wife, remember, through Trumati, he had all these valorous, strong, courageous, physically very courageous sons. A number of them he had. So he gathered all of them, armed and equipped them, and sent them down to find out where the horse is, to find out where it is. And they went around and searched everywhere. Even they dug through the earth, and then they could not find the horse. So they had to report and to the king, Maharaja, our mission has failed. We could not locate the horse. The king was absolutely boiling mad. And he said, what is the use in having so many sons, and now you come back and only announce your incompetence? Why are you standing in front of me, with such disgrace? Get out. Do not come until you recover the horse. Then the sons, naturally they were hurt. They went back into the world, again determined to look for the horse. Looked mountains and hills and lakes and rivers and caves and towns. Everywhere they searched and searched and searched. And then when they were proceeding like this, in one place they saw a hermit, a sage, deeply engrossed in dhyana. And adjacent to him, the horse was there, calmly nibbling on grass. They were overcome, obviously. They were extremely happy, elated when they saw the horse there. And then at the same time, they became angry when they saw this rishi sitting there. And now they had two huge emotions. One was extreme delight, another was extreme anger. And they lost their sanity for a moment. They lost their balance. and they had some irrepressible and irresponsible, incorrect feelings, and they did not apply reason. They did not even think for a second. This is how Bhagavan acts. When Bhagavan puts strings, sometimes even the most reasonable person loses reason. And the same thing that happened to Parikshit. And they went close to the Rishi who was engrossed in Dhyanam, and he was in Samadhi actually. They went and shouted on his ear, "You brute, you stole our horse and hid it in your backyard, and now you're pretending to be like this in Samadhi." That sage Rishi was none other than Kapila, Sage Kapila. And Sage Kapila is an avataram of Mahavishnu. That's another story. So he slowly opened his eyes, looked around, and then he saw the number of the Sagara sons. They were standing, number of them were standing in front of him. They even were so angry, some of them even got ready to beat the sage. They were so out of control. Then Sage decided, this is not a moment to talk and speak, because no words will be heard, no arguments will be heard, everything will be futile. So I must deal with the situation in a different way. Immediately he burnt all of them to ashes merely by looking at them. And so they had been, all these Sagara sons were turned into ashes, and now here they had not returned. So the king is naturally getting very worried. And how can he now sacrifice that he had gone so much? How can he continue and finish it when he was very worried like this? His grandfather's feet and said, "Please, Maharaja, allow me. I will go and look for them, look for what happened to them." So Sagara blessed him and he went. And Amsumanta was very sincere and attentive and completely dedicated to his job. He looked without wasting time, day and night, and then he searched and searched, and finally he found success. What did he find? He saw that there was a pile of ashes there, the horse was there, and wondering, now he realized that his uncles had been turned into ashes. But he could not perform the last rites. Why? Well, no tank, no lake, no stream, nothing around. And that you need that water in order to make the funeral offering. So without performing the last rites, but extremely sad and miserable and, just heavy with his worry and the burden that, he could not complete the final rites for his uncle. At the same time, he had to bring back the horse in order to complete the yajna. So he did not know what to do. At that time, a very old man came to him and said, "Listen, son, do not allow your sadness and grief and misery overpower you. Your uncles were reduced to ashes by Sage Kapila with the welfare of the world in view." That's the reason he did, because the result of what Kapila did, finally, which ended in Ganga coming down to earth, that's the welfare for the whole world. So, don't be content, just to offer the final offerings to them. Your job, you got to get the holy celestial water, Ganga. And don't use any ordinary water. No ordinary water should be offered for funeral offerings for your uncle. The holy Ganga must come. Work on that. Bring that Ganga here to down to earth. And then let that sacred water flow over the ashes. Then your uncles, the Pitrukal will be satisfied. But first, take the horse back quickly. And then help your grandfather conclude his the yajnam properly, and then you can think of how to bring Ganga to Amsumanta. Fell at the feet of the sage and hurried back to the grandfather, and where the yajna was being held up, the horse was waiting for, and then Sagara saw that Amsumanta had come back with the horse, but Hamsumanta did not have the heart or did not think that it was abuse of his uncles, because it is an auspicious moment. So you don't want to talk about inauspicious things. He gave the horse. Then the valedictory concluding rites were performed, and everybody was given appropriate gifts, and the yagam was successfully concluded. Then Amsumanta gave a detailed account of what had happened to the uncles, and he encouraged and pushed to bring that with Bhagavan's grace. We will stop there and continue tomorrow. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om.